All right, thank you, Jim. 7 after 6, Randy has been trying his hand at some new jobs this week.
He sure has. Today's assignment got so much attention in the newsroom, we decided to just let him leave the studio and be there live. Randy, where are you and just what are you doing?
Well, it's shortly after 6 a.m., of course, as you know, and I'm in a brewery. So now you know I have a problem. No, I have a friend. I have Steve Ferris of Sweetwater Brewery with me here, and the job I'm going to do in the next half hour is I'm going to be head brewer for a little bit. Not brewmaster. That's even above the head brewer, right, Steve?
Yeah, brewmaster is the guy who oversees the whole operation from beginning to end. Our head brewer is our artist, the guy who is the chef who's making up every recipe every day. Okay,
now the guys who founded this came to Atlanta during the Olympics. Boy, this would be a great place to start a business. Started in 1997, and it's a big Atlanta success story. And yes, I do have a glass here, but there's no liquid in there, ladies. Not at this hour, and not when I'm driving back to the station. Is that toasted?
That's roasted.
Grain?
Roasted grain, yeah. And that gives a lot of the flavor, color, and then also the alcohol content for our beer.
Hold that for me real quick. You know, some people, they just kind of...
Yeah, it's like grape nuts.
Like sunflower seeds.
It's like grape nuts, yeah. It's good for breakfast.
Yeah. And I'm hungry, as always. Even though I won't partake of the liquid right here this morning, I can satisfy the hunger. So I think you'll find the brewing process, interesting a little bit later on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Will you, honestly, would you bring it, because I have grape nuts and stuff every morning.
Yeah.
Could I sprinkle some on? Would that be good in cereal or not?
Jill wants to sprinkle some of that on her cereal.
Oh. Come on down, we'll have a few beers while we do it.
Listen to that.
That's
hey,
amazing.
We've been up for hours on this shift, so, it's not really 10 a.m. or so to us.
It's lunchtime for us.
Somewhere.
All right, we'll be back here a little bit later on with sports and also brewing.
All right, Randy, thank you so much.
Wouldn't it be great if you could try your dream job even for a day?
There are a lot of unique and unusual jobs across Metro Atlanta, and Randy is trying some of them out. Today he tackles the suds at Sweetwater Brewery. Tough job, Randy.
Well, actually it is. You have to know a lot and you have to do things just right. And I'm curious, though, whether Rosie and Barbara is a scheduled 12-round bout or not, but we'll find out about that a little bit later on. You mentioned the new Kia plant in LaGrange. You were talking about jobs in this area. This is actually a pretty thriving business in the Atlanta area. The reason that the people who founded this, the Sweetwater Brewery, came here some 10 or 11 years ago was that they thought the Southeast was kind of ripe for this industry. Unlike the western part of the country and the northeastern part of the country, very few breweries locally. There are 2 such companies here in Atlanta. I doubt if either one of them would hire me after you see this.
Well, basically, once again, we pick out the style that we're looking for, and then we put together a recipe for it. And then from there, we'll just get together and communicate about it, and we'll come up with an idea, and then from there, we'll go see what's available and see if we can get it.
Sounds simple, but it isn't. When head brewer Nick Knock, yes, that's his real name, took me through the process.
We're standing in the mill room. And this is all of our specialty malt, the malt that's going to affect the body and the color and the flavor of the beer.
So we're talking manual labor.
Yeah,
here.
there's a good amount of manual labor around here. This is Victory malt.
Okay.
It's going to affect the body of the beer.
Okay. You don't have to be gentle, right?
No. You just need to get it in there.
The biggest bag is a 55-pounder.
This is roasted barley. It's going to affect the color. It's going to give it a dark color. It's going to give it a real caramelly taste. It's going to affect the body as well.
Okay. It already affected my body.
This is the first part of the process, which basically the water is introduced to the grain, creating the mash. This is the easy part of milling in, where you threw the bags in before. This actually controls the silos that we have outside.
By pushing a few buttons, you can add as many as 3,000 pounds of grain into a batch.
So we just got kettle full and we just got boil. So what we need to do now is take a sample to measure how much sugar that we've collected in here.
I actually need a left-handed ladle.
Long story short, the yeast that's going to be introduced to the beer is going to eat the sugars, which ultimately is going to produce the alcohol.
The grain from which the liquid was extracted is not wasted.
Once we get all the liquid out by spinning these rakes, we're going to drop it into an auger, which is going to go out to a truck, which farmers are going to use to feed for dairy cattle.
Salvaging the hops is not fun, but this is used as compost. This is a regional, not a microbrewery. It's on pace to produce over 55,000 barrels this year, which go right to the cooler, then are shipped in refrigerated trucks. as well as some special holiday products coming out in limited amounts. If they rely on me to cap and label the bottles, they'll be very limited.
You threw the first hops to that guy.
All right. Looks good for a Saturday night when I'm not driving. All right, the guy who took me through that process is with me live right now. Nick, give me a grade.
I think you did all right. I give you about a B minus. The one thing I really got to come down on you for is you showed up wearing a suit. You can't be doing that. This is a man's job. You're gonna get dirty.
I know. Well, it's like my dad always used to say, you don't really work, do you?
Yeah.
And doing what I do. Right. And then, no, you do. You work.
Yep. We work up some sweat. Yep.
Yeah. And the guys are going at it back there right now.
Yep. And we are. Yep.
And you produce, as we said, in limited amounts, a festive ale. Now, here's a quick question for you. If you were making this in another city, would you have to, how would you deal with the difference in the water at that location as compared to what you use here for the water here?
Well, basically, before we start brewing a batch, we're going to test the water. And if we have to make adjustments, then we will make adjustments to get the beer out just the way we want it.
Okay. Well, some of the good folks who came here and helped us this morning are going to put in a 20-hour day because you all have, Georgia State has a fundraiser here tonight. So we appreciate your coming by.
Wow.
I appreciate you coming by. This is great.
Now, what's that you're holding in your hand, Randy? What's that? What's that in your hand?
This is a seasonal, a festive ale that they produce here in limited amounts.
You know what? It looked like a bottle of champagne, and that's what got Karen interested. I guarantee you that's where she was going with that. Yeah.
It was not.
It looked a little like champagne.
When you come from the country like I do, this is champagne.
I have to ask you, that beer that we saw at the end of your piece, did you pour that?
Well, no, it is actually a 7-hour process, right, Nick, from start to finish, roughly?
It takes about 7 hours, but we're actually putting out a batch of beer every 4 hours.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So that liquid that you saw in that glass was not the actual grain that I started with, but same process.
Perfect head on that beer, though, and I know because my dad worked for Anheuser-Busch for 38 years.
That's right.
So that was a perfect glass of beer.
We learned a lot from you, Randy. Thank you.
Okay.